Tonight on Joy News Prime, Sanitation and Water Resources Minister insists President Akufo-Addo is 85% through with his promise to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa by the end of his first term in office. Also, Teshie police arrest 10 persons who attacked the Teshie Palace over a decision by the chief to call off this year's Homo Festival. And also in this bulletin, as the police commence work to ensure the beach where some explosives last week detonated and injured some 4 children is swept clean, questions are being asked about how the devices ended up there in the first place. And in business, auditing firm Deloitte joins call for government to seek debt relief.
To make a case to our development partners to do some debt cancellation, you will get a lot of relief.
But do we have enough justification for that?
I mean, there's a lot of justification for that.
My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlimli here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air on DSTV channel 421 and Go TV channel 144. Thanks for choosing us. In our very first story, Sanitation Minister Cecilia Abinadapa says the Akufo-Addo administration has made significant strides towards making Accra the cleanest city in Africa. She estimates the promise made by President Akufo-Addo in 2017 is 85% fulfilled. There's been suggestions the goal is too ambitious, adding it could not be achieved by the end of the president's first term in office. But addressing the media as part of sanitation tour and cleanup exercise in parts of Mamobi on Tuesday, the sanitation minister said the objective was realized during this year's lockdown, though the gains have since been eroded.
We are here to assess the situation of environmental cleanliness and general sanitation, because we are doing sanitation or cleaning every day. But some issues like clogging the drains becomes a bigger issue for the residents. Hence the presence of Zoom Lion and the squad or team, the military, to assess the situation, because normally we work hand in hand with them, and then the assembly also. So we came here this morning to assess the situation and to make sure the drains are rid of these plastics, because if they are not removed, access for water flow will be difficult. Yes.
And one of the promises elections was to make Accra the cleanest city.
Yes, and you saw it during the lockdown.
Yes. How far would that promise?
I will give it 85%, because at the end of the day, you all saw the 100% we did during the lockdown. So who makes Accra dirty? Us. That's why we are every day sensitizing people to make sure. I'm telling you, I know you will quote it, and I insist it's 85. You will rate it maybe 100%. Thank you.
But Vice President of the Coalition of NGOs in Water and Sanitation, Atahain, disputes the minister's claim. He says Accra is nowhere that go.
I have not seen the blueprint. We have not developed indicators, and these are the areas where we expect that government will work closely with civil society so that we can develop the indicators together and track them together. But without having the indicators, it will be difficult for me to, guess. But my recommendation will be that let's resource environmental service providers adequately, waste management companies. If we could have 10 Zoom Lions in Ghana, you can imagine how this country will be. Let's invest in material recovery, treatment, composting, and recycling of waste. But for me, I don't think that we are anywhere near 85% in terms of achieving the president's vision of making Accra the cleanest city in Africa. We have been in consultation with government and the ministry on several other things, development of policies and strategies, plans, and all that. But as far as I'm concerned, there was very little involvement of civil society in, for example, the launching of the National Sanitation Campaign, and also the declaration of Accra becoming the cleanest city in Africa. I mean, very little from civil society in terms of inputs. And I am saying that going forward, we need to work closely together, because if we are going to track progress, we will be tracking them together. Civil society in Ghana has a lot of capacity. And if we are able to work with them closely, I think that we should be able to find innovative solutions to the sanitation challenges that confront this country.
Meanwhile, although the people of Mamobi are thankful for the cleanup exercise in their community, they say they are in dire need of public toilets as open defecation still persists. They told Joy News' Teshie and Anaya Osafo the only public toilet available has been locked over a political brawl between the NPP and NDC.
Any public toilet too. I'm away. Maybe I too say I'm not on toilet. The public toilet to a friend NDC. I'm a former close MP for by now. Almost easy. I'm a papa B. And no more toilet. Any toilet or any public toilet. So my public toilet now. I'm away. Yeah, to me close.
Okay. So, Baba Amando is a resident here. He's in Mamobi, Nima side. He tells me that they used to have a public toilet facility in this community that they affectionately called NDC. No particular reason attached to that. But since the current government came into power, some faithfuls or some alleged faithfuls of the MPP have shut down the public toilet facility, saying that it's closed to use from members of the community. Thus, they resort to open defecation.
We are really suffering because we don't have a public toilet here. So more than a year now, and we are really suffering a lot. You can see our surroundings. It's very, very bad. So the boys here, I mean, everybody is going in here to, ease themselves.
And that am I asking, but you're a woman. A woman has certain needs. Where do you ease yourself?
It's really bad. I can't even tell because I'm even shy to say it.
Public toilet that we have is only one, but someone is claiming that the toilet belongs to him, which is not fair. You see, the public toilet is for the community. It's not for somebody during the election, because that is like the MPP person is now on, so they don't want to hand over the toilet to him.
Let's get on to Facebook and pick some comments there. We posted this, said by the minister, we are 85% through with making Accra the cleanest city in Africa, sanitation minister, and that's what's coming from here. And let's see the comments coming. 283 comments, 60 shares, 449 likes. Andrew Terrier says, Master, stop that, please. When was your last time you came to Accra? Okay, I don't know what he's referring to, but Shelling Love says they should go to Nima Gata alone and see what kind of lie is this. And Nana Kwesi says, I've always said something is not right with oh, don't be harsh. I mean, let's try not to get into that. And Riri says, you guys are funny. You make Accra be like, okay, so you didn't complete that message. And Surunipa says concert country. Doka says oh Ghana, and Michael Kwabena says okay. So a number of your comments there, a number of your comments coming in. Some are a bit harsh. I can't read them. And okay, so those are some of the comments that you posted on our Facebook page. But the Teshie Divisional Police have arrested 10 people for attacking the palace of the Teshie chief, Bechonlo Ni Ashite Akomfra III. The 10 are said to have been part of a group that defied the orders of the Traditional Council not to perform certain rites associated with the festival due to COVID-19 restrictions. My colleague Ernest Meno was in that community and now reports.
The group marched through principal streets of the town amidst dancing and singing and finally besieged the chief's palace to throw stones and bottles. According to some residents, the police team deployed there dispersed the crowd using tear gas. However, there was some resistance from the people, leading to the arrest of the 10.
Ni tafracha de Ghana ndoko femoni wo president and wonu shishage duo Ghana ye festival.
They came in their numbers and started fighting. We know it's not limited to Teshie. There's a national protocol for celebration of festivals. So we have carried out the necessary rituals. Even the Kwewu festival, which has a huge economic value, is not being celebrated. Kamashi is also on hold, even Nungwa and Tema. We can fight with them, but we need peace.
We can fight to them. So we need peace. We need borders. Borders.
We need government to create a barrier here and mount billboards with a message on COVID-19. We want the president to deploy the military here to enforce the restrictions.
We beg you. We beg you, Akufo-Addo.
Meanwhile, some residents are also calling on the president to ease the restrictions in order to allow them to celebrate this year's festival. Here's why.
Please allow us to celebrate the festival. We may not be alive next year. Enough of the police brutality and the gunshots. It will soon be over, so just allow us.
We've always celebrated the Teshie festival. If they didn't want us to celebrate with a march, they shouldn't have started the rituals in the first place. It will really worry us if we are not allowed to celebrate. Even if it's under protection, it should happen.
We couldn't work during the lockdown, so this is the time to make money. Today, we've been hit by the police. Government should allow us.
But the chief of Teshie, Becholo Ni Ashite Akonfa III, is appealing to his subjects to obey all COVID-19 safety protocols and observe this year's Homowo as announced by the Traditional Council.
Ni akayafi afile aye.
We should not be fighting, and I have not said we will not celebrate the festival. We will, but because of COVID-19, we cannot do things the same way.
What's our ball? Mofiamo anatui, mofiamo ana ehomishe.
Next year, God willing, we can go all out if we have life and in good health. We should all be patient and not fight or do things that will invite the security agencies. Let's live in peace.
Wonye woyelo dubai roman bi fe mi ha ma afi juro aka afia ya na afi eba na wo ka na ke hela ne alon te din ne abafo wotin ta no ma juro.
For now, the 10 suspects, including one female, are being interrogated by the police. Cleanest for Joy News.
Children in the western regional town of Bonsa say the continued pollution of the Bonsa River puts them at risk. The children have for years been swimming in that river, which passes through their town. But now its color has been muddied by miners who use dangerous chemicals in their work, including mercury. Here's a report by Joy News' Justice Beidou.
This is ground zero for Ghana's battle against illegal mining. The Bonsa River in the western regional town of Esioso. Even from drone visuals, you can see locally assembled dredging machines digging up for gold from the waterbed. All the waste goes back into the river. And to get the gold, the miners use mercury, a poisonous chemical that could cause long-term damage to the body.
At first, there was no galamsey, but as many people got into galamsey for the lack of work, the look of the water deteriorated.
Several kilometers downstream is the small village of Bonsa. In Esioso, the river is a mining den, but here it is a swimming pool mainly for children. With COVID lockdowns and school closures, these school children take to the river to while away time.
In the past, the water was so clear that we could even see ourselves when we dive under it. My dream is that we can swim and do so well that we can even compete at the international level in swimming. But the state of the river makes us sick. Sometimes I feel pains in my penis.
Back in Accra, I have come to show the pictures to Dr. Promise Sefoga, a public health consultant with nearly 2 decades of experience.
Directly, we don't know the linkage between mercury and urine in the blood. But what tends to happen is children who wade on surface water, they get what we call schistosomiasis bilharzia, and that parasite goes to affect the bladder, and that is the common leading cause of blood in the urine. The mercury exposure over a long time, what it really does to these children is it gets into the system and has very, very bad effects on the brain and the nervous system. So mercury over time, it leads to intellectual impairment, speech impairment, memory loss.
As the country struggles to get a grip of galamsey, the children of Bonsa are swimming in the waters it leaves behind, putting their lives on the line. Justice Beidou, Joy News, Bonsa in the Western region.
And on your election headquarters, Education Minister Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh says the NPP government has delivered on its manifesto promise to transform Ghana's education sector. In a statement to Parliament, he said, so far the free SHS program has been successful, adding that unlike the NDC that failed to pay for the progressive free education program before they exited government, the NPP has paid for it free SHS.
When we got into government, Mr. Speaker, we made an immediate and remarkable stride in education by rolling out our flagship free SHS program in September 2017, 9 months into the year of office. It was a promise to the people of Ghana, and we kept it. To date, over 1.2 million students have benefited from free senior high school program, which has expanded access to secondary education and enabled an extra 400,000 students to enroll in senior high school. Despite a few initial challenges in respect of implementation, Ghanaians have largely embrace this program, and testimonies are endless. Mr. Speaker, in 2016, many ridiculed the capacity to implement the program, citing unavailability of funds, inadequate classroom structures, and other school facilities to support the implementations. Seeing how successful the program's implementation has been with such important policies, such as the double-track calendar program, sustainable funding strategies, among others, our opponents making U-turn and promising a review of the program if they win power in 2020 elections, except they have failed to specifically say what aspect they will review and to what end and purpose. It is instructive to note that under the progressive free SHS policy, when they were in government, they left on arrears of over 30 million cedis in respect of the 2015-2016 academic year, when the program started with day students only. That has since been paid by the Nanado government. Nothing at all was paid by NDC in the respect of the 120,000 students catered for another high-sounding progressive free education in the 2016-2017 academic year. Notwithstanding the initial hiccups, the free SHS program, I believe, is here to stay, and we are confident that the generality of Ghanaians are fully behind it. Let me assure the House that President Akufo-Addo is committed to ensuring that no child in this country will ever be left behind or denied access to senior high school education for the sole reason that their family is unable to pay for the education.
He says the capitation grant has also seen significant increase since 2017. In 2013, less than 2% of primary 2 students could read. He says their performance is a whole lot better now.
Basic schools had a high incidence of fees and levies as capitation grant amount of 4 cedis per child per year that was woefully inadequate. Research conducted by the National Development Planning Commission in 2015 revealed that fees and levies charged to pupils hindered access and effective participation in basic education to those who had difficulty paying fees and levies imposed by the schools. Effective 2017-2018 academic year, capitation grant was increased from 4.5 cedis to 9 cedis, then the subsequent year to 10 cedis. The 122% increase in per capita capitation grant has contributed to removing the cost barriers to free access and provide schools with minimum amount of funds required to keep schools running.
Minority Leader Arno Idris, however, says the minister should have used the statement to tell the House what is being done to ensure schools resume normal sessions. He challenged the minister's claim that the education sector is in much better shape today than what it inherited from the NDC.
Expectation was that the minister will be sharing with this House what plans he has in relation to COVID, what is happening to Ghanaian students from the basic level up to the secondary education level. That, for me, would have been a major public policy priority issue to keep the Ghanaian public abreast how he is addressing, particularly the disparities and inadequacies. Our children, my child and his child, are privileged, and therefore they have opportunity of Zoom. The pupils in the Saito schools, so-called Saito schools, whether Sanargu Primary or Kumbungu Secondary or Bagabaga, they don't have an opportunity to learn whilst at home under COVID. And Minister, that must engage your priority attention in order that you'll be resolving a necessary disparity in the provision of education and quality education to Ghanaian children in private schools against Ghanaian students in public schools. More importantly, I expected your statement to address the fate of senior school graduates, those to write the final exams. I have followed your Twitter handle and your text when you respond, but that is not information in Parliament. So when you write, come here and assure the people of Ghana, this is the Parliament of Ghana, what plans the President and your ministry have for that category of students. Because, Mr. Speaker, education is key to development, and if we get it right, this country will be on that rightful path to prosperity. If we get it wrong, it can affect us.
Away from Parliament, the Ghana Center for Democratic Development has expressed worry about the violence that characterized the just-ended voter registration exercise, describing the developments as having the potential to derail the country's democratic gains. Ahead of the 2020 general election, CDD is warning if the major violent acts like shooting, stabbing, and burning of property are not nipped in the bud, the country could witness more deaths and vandalism of state and political party-owned property, as happened in some constituencies. Head of Security and Governance at CDD, Nana Kwabena Brompa, says he said this at a roundtable discussion on measures needed to ensure a violent-free electoral and political environment through the enforcement of existing laws.
Across all both MPP, NDC primaries, we have issued the voter register. So that's the basic document that always orchestrates violence in the electoral process. That's why we have more registered violent cases in the pre-election environment. For the 2020 voter registration exercise is no exception. We have had a number of election-related violence. The difference between now and us NS portrayed is that in this voter registration exercise, compared to 2012 and the previous ones, we have recorded more major cases than the previous ones. As NS said, in the previous one, we had more cases recorded in the minor cases, abuse of incumbency, threat of violence, issuing threats on the social media and other things. But this one, we have had a lot of major cases, being deaths and the burning of properties and other things. This is the data showing the occurrence of the incident that we had. You could see out of the 20 major cases had 14. About 70% of the cases are major. This is the trend that we see as dangerous because comparing to 2012-2016, we had more cases, but most of the cases were at the minor areas. That did not result into death, that did not result into injuries, property burns, and other things. But this one have recorded major cases. So you see 14 of them, 7% were major incidents, 2 deaths, several injuries, and properties burnt and destroyed. 20% were moderate cases that involves intimidation, threat of violence, harm, incitement languages, and abuse of public order acts, use of abusive language, and vandalization of publicity materials, as NS said. And you could see so many of the publicity materials, not only for political parties, but even electoral commission materials. Directional signs to registration centers were destroyed. So everybody is affected. Then just 1% of the minor incidents, rumors and allegations. So it tells you that, yes, we have had increase of cases, but the categories of cases we are recording are more falling on the dangerous aspect of it that results in damage to properties and deaths. So we need to be very careful as to how to tackle the issues.
Also live on Joy News Prime, we'll be back with more Plus Business.
Hello, good evening. I am Sandra Isenamap and I'm here for business. Head of Financial Advisory at Deloitte, Yao Latte, says the impact of COVID-19 pandemic presents a perfect opportunity for Ghana to request for debt relief from the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. He believes that aside several interventions by government to revive the country's economy, there is a justification for the country to get debt relief similar to what was given in 2001. Ebenezer Sabote has more in the following report.
Ghana's debt ratio is rising at a rate many described as unsustainable. The country's public debt stock currently stands at around 255 billion cedis after the finance minister Ken Ofori-Atta presented the supplementary budget and mid-year review. Many economists have been making inputs on how revenue can be generated to revive the economy after the coronavirus pandemic. Speaking to Joy Business, auditing firm Deloitte believe that despite measures put in place by the government, the finance minister should seek debt relief from international donors. Here is Head of Financial Advisory, Yao Latte.
We should take advantage of the pandemic and also apply for the debt relief from international partners. I think one of the benefits we got around about the year 2000 and 2001 was when we opted for the HIPC. And it helped us because it gave government a lot of relief to invest in other projects. If we use the pandemic as a situation to make a strong case to our development partners to do some debt cancellation, we will get a lot of relief.
But do we have enough justification for that?
I mean, there's a lot of justification for that. And I think the conversation has started. And government should strongly push it and join other developing countries to push that conversation strongly, because we have enough justification to do it. Our debt stock is not sustainable. It's not something that we can continue doing.
Deloitte has also been proposing different mechanisms of borrowing in order to maintain Ghana's debt to GDP ratio.
There are people who are living in luxurious homes who've never paid property rates. And those properties are identifiable. There's no way the person can hide that property. And so if we are not able to tax even properties, then you know that we are really struggling to raise the necessary revenue to support our budgets. Also on the point about borrowing, we are in a pandemic situation, and therefore, as you see with a lot of other countries, over 80 countries have applied to the IMF for support. And so we are not the exception. We are part of the lot. But I think we'll go back to the age-old mantra that it has to be a smart borrowing. We should borrow the money and invest them in self-financing projects. That reduces the debt to GDP ratio.
The country's debt to GDP ratio currently falls around 11%, according to data from the Finance Ministry.
Cocoa Board is seeking Parliament's approval to raise some $1.3 billion in loan syndication for cocoa purchase for the next crop season. The request was contained in a document sent to Parliament's Finance Committee for consideration. George Viafe has more.
According to the Finance Committee's report, Cocoa Board would first seek about 650 million cedis out of the targeted $1.3 billion. A fraction of this amount should hit the Bank of Ghana's accounts before October this year. Sources say the roadshow could be closed before the end of September this year. The report approved by the Finance Committee of Parliament showed the rest will be raised in February next year. It is also not clear for now what might be the reason for raising the funds in these two tranches, compared to the past when it was all done at once. Cocoa Board is hoping to use the funds to buy the cocoa beans from farmers through the licensed buying companies. In terms of the cost, Cocoa Board will pay a 1-month LIBOR of plus 1.75% per annum and a commitment fee of 0.62% and an upfront fee of 1.25%. Meanwhile, Cocoa Board is looking at 900,000 metric tons of cocoa beans in terms of production target for the next crop season. The funds coming in would not only be beneficial to the cocoa sector, but also the entire economy because of its impact on the city and the infrastructure needs of the country.
Meanwhile, the woes of the country's largest cocoa producing company, CPC, continues to worsen. This was after it recorded a 48% loss in the first half of the year to reach 5.4 million cedis as compared with 3.6 million cedis a year before. Here is a Business Desk report.
After suffering over a year's suspension from trading on the Ghana Stock Exchange, the firm's financial statement appears not to be improving. The unaudited account of the cocoa confectionery and chocolate producer revealed its sales reduced by almost half, from 21 million cedis a year before to 11.4 million cedis as at the end of June 2020. Earnings per share also continued to remain negative, and could that explain why the major investors Cocoa Board, the Ministry of Finance and SNIT are adamant in reinvesting in the business or drawing a roadmap for its turnaround? Though the coronavirus pandemic affected the performance of the business to some extent, CPC is already finding it difficult to stand on its feet. It twice escaped delisting with two other firms in 2018 and 2019. But the industry finds itself quite lucrative. As Joy Business gathers, its competitors, largely privately owned firms, are doing brisk business. Alex Boahene is the head of research at Data Bank.
And the impact of this is that the company's balance sheet or total equity is actually receding. Shareholders' equity is receding year in, year out. And that has actually, as it stands, it's negative. And what it means is that its total liability is now more than a total asset.
That will be all for now. I'm back after 8 p.m. But after the break, we have sports news.
Thank you for staying with us on Joy News Prime. I'm Gary Al Smith and this is The Sport. The Ghana Boxing Authority will petition government to ease restrictions on the discipline, according to the Secretary General of the Federation, Patrick Johnson. Now, restrictions on contact sports have led to athletes getting rusty.
Following the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic in Ghana, the government of Ghana placed a ban on the organization of sporting events in the country, including boxing. In May, the president of the country, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in an address to the nation, eased restrictions on some sporting disciplines. The federations who were given the leeway to allow their athletes to get back to the field and train were the sporting disciplines that are non-contact sport. The chief executive officer of Box Office Promotions, Alex Ntiamwa, had told Joy Sports the difficulties they've encountered since the suspension of sporting events.
It gives me sleepless nights because I don't know when things will return to normalcy, and I kept on spending, and I don't know. I'm even afraid it will affect even my family and myself because I don't know where to turn to, because even with boxing issues, sometimes you need to fall on loan to, prepare the grounds for shows. Now nobody will be ready to give you any loan because he knows there's this COVID-19 out there and nobody knows when things will return to normalcy. So it's very, very frustrating. Sometimes it's very hard for me even to sleep.
Many boxers in the country are getting rusty due to the lack of sporting activities in the last 5 months. The Executive Council of the Ghana Boxing Authority has decided to petition the president to ease restrictions on boxing.
We are not in the good era, but we all fighting that boxing will bounce back. As the last time we had a meeting that we want to petition the president to lift ban on boxing specifically to enable us, set the ball rolling, because our guys are not, doing anything and they are very angry and they are not getting money to take care of their family.
In other jurisdictions, sporting activities has been eased, and this gave Ghanaian boxer Isaac Dogbe the opportunity to fight last month.
Still on the Boxing Authority, yesterday, Patrick Alote called on them to announce the lifting of his ban. The GBA say they forgot the date was due and will communicate to the boxing community by close of week.
In an interview with Joy Sports on Monday, Patrick Alote called on the Ghana Boxing Authority to announce the lifting of a ban imposed on him 6 months ago. August 3 was scheduled as the date ending the suspension of Mr. Alote, but with the GBA not announcing the lifting of his ban after a week, Patrick Alote called on the boxing governing body to do so.
Because I want them to I don't know if the president will agree with me, but to me, I would like them to write a letter and put it on social media like they do to ban me, so that every social media member will see, or everyone on social media will see, so that maybe one day if I'm in the ring fighting, it will not cause any problem outside, because some might know that I've been banned and now I'm in the ring. Some might know that the ban has been lifted, and maybe there will be a misunderstanding that will cause another problem.
In a reaction from the Secretary General of the Ghana Boxing Authority, Patrick Johnson said it has escaped their mind, but they will communicate to the public the end of his suspension.
The president prompted me that his time is due, that you have to give him letter by lifting the ban, and that's what we normally do. Anyone we do ban, and when the time is due, we do give the person a letter that we have lifted his ban, and we know such time. We also set him right to do things correctly. So I think very soon we will give Patrick Alote his letter back.
Now, in a bit of history, on Thursday it will be 54 years to the day that Ghana won its first and only gold medal at the Commonwealth Games. The man who won it is close to 80 years, and he is the husband of former National Science and Maths Quiz mistress, the late Professor Rama Adi. His name is Uko Adi.
Time now for showbiz. Becky is here as usual.
Yes, I'm here with the latest in entertainment. Aisha, you have to become a musician.
Why?
Oh, but you said you wanted to become a rapper.
Yeah, but I haven't sung
because
lately.
A lot of people are going into music.
Oh,
the
okay.
new one.
Will you produce me?
Of course I will.
Okay.
But the recent one
is
a deal. Actress Chewa. Remember she got married not too long ago.
She's singing too.
Oh yeah, she had a gospel song.
Wow.
Oh, so that was for those of you who don't know, Chewa is out with a gospel song asking
I'm amazed actually.
Yeah. I know.
Of course, if Chewa can sing, why not?
That is the reason why you have to
Viewers,
pursue
my
the
album
music.
is coming. Watch out. I mean, just watch the space.
Pooh. Aisha, let's.
And guess who I'll feature?
No, don't feature. Don't try me, I beg you.
Okay.
So we're continuing the musicians, the female musicians who are missing in the industry.
In the industry, yes.
So today, when was the last time you heard from Raquel?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah, so we're throwing the spotlight on Raquel for, you know, all the things that she's been doing in the music industry. We hope that she will come back soon.
Okay. Now Raquel, for you, to me, blow one more time. Thank you so much for bringing us to this. And that'll be it for those of you watching on Joy Prime. The news continues on Joy News. Welcome back to Joy News Prime to the rest of our stories. And it's been a day after Joy News first aired the story of 4 children who escaped death when a device they were playing with near the seashore turned out to be a bomb. The Ghana Armed Forces has declined to comment on the issue. Residents, however, are calling for swift investigations. There is more in the following report.
The loud sound was heard by everyone in and around the community. The time was 11 a.m., 4th August 2020.
I hear the team, and the team blast. As a explosion. So who just shot the gun like that? Where my master told you it's not a gun. But here the carpenter is knocking something for inside. What is not
each person had their interpretation of what it meant.
The only thing I heard was like, boom! I was like, Lord of His mercy, what is happening?
Kofi Amwako, a mason returning from Usu, rushed to the scene.
It was bad. There was blood oozing from different body parts of these kids. The 7-year-old was the worst hit. Even in the hospital, they had to remove a lot of pellets from his back.
Uko Adams is the father of all 4 children. The pig farmer is grateful to God that all 4 children survived the blast.
They left the grenade while they saw smoke rising from it. Luckily, they threw it far away from them. If it got any inch closer, it would have killed them.
Residents are scared of what the explosion could mean for the community.
I have 2 wonderful kids. We love the ocean. We love to visit the ocean. I love to go there and do my medication and pray. What if I don't know and I step on something? All I want to say is, please, to whoever is listening to me, please, to the authorities, please, scan around and find out what is really happening in Salabadi.
My concern, they should go inside the matter. I get to know the people who have a train over there, how they manage before dodge the bomb over there. After that, we get to know that they get another bomb too over there. So still, we are afraid about the area.
They have lots of questions for the authorities. Witnesses say the military visited La last week and discovered even more grenades.
They find one of the bomb over there and the other one too. So the bomb
here.
Yeah.
Can you show us which side?
This place and where the bushes and they find one at where the gutter is.
So all in all, how many bombs were those?
There was 5 over here and 1 over there, and there was 1, 2 over here, so 7.
They said they come and find another bomb here.
How many military men did you notice?
Actually, the counts are coming. We can't count them.
There were several.
There are several. We can't
if you
count
give an
them.
estimate, how many will you say? If you have to estimate, say they are about how much?
Because we are there, we are working.
The children's injuries mean more hospital bills for a father who is now struggling to put food on the table.
I must be the general public to help me out. I'm truly in a sad situation. He now has medical issues with his leg.
And 1 year can Sikasema now say,
oh, Sika must say, because any papa could must say 12 million. We Sika must say 12 million.
Anime Vazome, security analyst Colonel Festus Abuaji retired. For more on this, Colonel, I'm grateful that you could join us, but you've been advocating that we take this issue seriously. But we've been trying to engage the Ghana Armed Forces about this, but to no avail. Is it enough that they are silent on such a sensitive matter?
Well, I'm not too sure why they are being silent. They might have their own reasons. But in terms of public awareness, public education, and this is what the management and handling of such explosives are about. It's about public awareness. So I would think that it is the interest of the public to know what really happened, and what it is that the authorities are doing to make that locality safe. And then to follow that up with more public education as to how persons need to be very cautious about suspicious objects, which may be attractive, but which may be dangerous. What it is that they should do when they come across such devices. So I wouldn't want to blame the armed forces, but I would only wish to suggest that it is better for public safety if the public knew exactly what happened.
I'm curious to know how dangerous this is as far as terrorism is concerned.
Well, there is no evidence at this stage to link the grenades or the presence of the grenades at that Labadi beach area or Labadi coastal area to terrorism. There could be a link, and that could be one of the lines of investigation or inquiry that the armed forces and all the police and other national security agencies might wish to pursue. But ultimately, we need to know where these devices came from. We don't manufacture them here. Even when we import them, we acquire them for the armed forces. And we've got a very strong or stringent regime for controlling them. So where did these devices come from? I've suggested that they could have washed ashore, assuming, from a canoe that was passing by the coast. They could have been deposited there by somebody, sightseeing or holidaying, whatever, and then left there. But one story in a newspaper or in the media suggested that there is a land dispute, and one of the factions or parties planted those grenades there to, scare off the others. It could be part of this proliferation of small arms and light weapons and munitions. So they could come from across the border or borders from some of the conflict areas around us, both previous and ongoing. Indeed, they could even be smuggled from far away as U.S. So there is a recent case where the FBI has arrested a Ghanaian in the U.S., for instance, for smuggling weapons from the U.S. to Ghana. But the fact of the matter is that they came from somewhere. And the authorities need to find out where they came from, who are behind the delivery of those grenades to Ghana, for what purpose, and then to try and link that find or that incident to the earlier incident, I think sometime last year, when I believe the same type of fragmentation grenades Mark II were found in a certain hotel in Accra. So I believe that the authorities are working behind the scenes. But as far as the intelligence side of it goes, I don't think we need to demand of the authorities to tell us anything. But the explanation for what happened at that locality, how the place has been made safe, the injuries that were caused, and then the subsequent public education, public awareness. That is very, very necessary.
I'm extremely grateful for your time. Colonel Festus Abuaji, retired, is a security analyst. He's been speaking about what happened with children picking up those explosives. In other stories, President Akufo-Addo has today cut short for the construction of 2 major health facilities in Accra. The first is a 400-bed maternity and gynecology facility at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital with a nephrology and urology center. And the second, the construction of the La General Hospital. The projects, according to President Akufo-Addo, are part of government's efforts to bridge the gap in healthcare service delivery in Ghana. Manuel Cranting has more in the following report.
Before now, their only hope was this crack-ridden 6-story facility, which has some of its beams rotten and almost falling off. President Akufo-Addo cut short for the construction of a 400-bed maternity block and a 110-bed urology and nephrology center for the hospital. The 2 facilities, valued at 145 million euros and 35 million euros respectively, are to be constructed by Italian construction firm Vermed Engineering. Speaking at a sword-cutting ceremony, President Akufo-Addo said the project is in fulfillment of a 2018 promise he made to reconstruct the block to better position Kolebu to facilitate Ghana's progress in quality healthcare delivery.
The commencement of work on these 2 projects, in addition to the reactivation of construction work on the abandoned 750-bed maternity and children's block at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital in Kumasi, will significantly reduce maternal and neonatal mortality rates in our country. They are also further testimony to the commitment of government to improve our country's health care infrastructure and move us steadily towards the goal of achieving universal health coverage for all. Indeed, on my recent visit to Kolebu, when I commissioned the intensive care unit of the National Reconstructive Plastic Surgery and Burn Center for the hospital, I was struck by the poor state of the maternity block. I promised to help remedy the situation, as the current state of the building is not fit for purpose. Today's ceremony is a fulfillment of the pledge I made. Kolebu, over its 97 years of existence, has served as a center of excellence in teaching, research, and the provision of high-level specialized healthcare services to Ghanaians and to persons from beyond our shores. This hospital, which is the 3rd largest in sub-Saharan Africa and the leading referral center in the country, is challenged with inadequate infrastructure, equipment, and cutting-edge technology to enable it respond adequately to the ever-increasing demand for its specialist services.
With several calls on government to operationalize abandoned health facilities in the country, Health Minister Kweku Agyeman said plans are far advanced for the commissioning of 11 more health facilities before the end of 2020.
The break on Joy News Prime will return. There is more in the bulletin.
now to do more business news, and creator of popular Veronica buckets in the person of Veronica Beku says her biggest mistake was the failure to patent her innovation. This has made her lost copyright and patent demands, especially as many countries across the world have adopted her innovation. She's lost so much cash in this process. She spoke to Charles Aite.
I didn't look ahead to improve upon it, or I never thought that it would be this popular. I didn't patent mine, which was a big mistake on my part. So I hope people out there will help these young ones who are coming up with all these new things to do, first of all, do the patenting, and then encourage them, support them either financially or otherwise, so that they move them ahead.
I'm quite curious to know, so does it mean your innovation wasn't patented?
It wasn't.
That was a huge mistake you made.
It was a huge mistake, and I don't want anybody to make that mistake. So I'm advising the youth who are coming up with all these innovations on the Veronica bucket to really persevere. Make sure they patent, seek support to move it forward. We tend to copy too much. You see, even bread selling, you see one person selling bread somewhere. Before you are aware, about 10 other people have joined the person. We should be more innovative and make sure that whatever we come out with, it should be unique, like you rightly said, and people should stop copying the same thing. They should look elsewhere, move ahead, maybe build on whatever exists, and then come out with something different. We are too fond of copying.
Up next is the commodity news update. Manu knows street. Well, and that's how we wrap up on business tonight. But if you missed the headlines today, you can catch it up on QuickBase with me, and those are the headlines. I'm also on Twitter at Sandra SNM1 and on Facebook, Sandra SNM. Thanks so much for watching. There's more news on myjoyonline.com/business. Have a great evening.
And that's how we wrap up Joy News Prime tonight. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for watching. The third part of Missing Kilos comes up next. Stay with us.